Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our literature unit for the month of September, and we're going to be talking about a young adult novel that you might consider reading yourself. And the nice thing about this novel is that it was also made into a movie. We suggest you read the book first before you see the movie. And what is this book and movie all about, Stephanie?
It's about, some high school kids, actually. And the focus, of course, is on one of the girls. Her name is Sam. Sam, guys, is short for Samantha, just so you know. Samantha is her full name. She goes by Sam, which is really cute. I love both those, Samantha and Sam. We are going to find out she actually dies in this book. And like Tom said to me before we started, it's almost like a Groundhog's Day kind of feel to it because you relive the same day she dies over and over again. But there is a message in it. And when I read the very last part, I did start to cry. I'll admit it.
Oh,
but
no.
Anyway,
a tearjerker, huh?
We're going to talk about, we're going to go back to high school. For some of us, that was a tough time. Even if you were in the popular groups, guys, it could have been hard. High school is just tough because kids sometimes are very mean. Once you graduate high school and you move on, life gets better, so hang on. We're going to go ahead and read through day one, which is the plot. The plot goes on, though, to day two as well, guys. And then after we read through day one, we'll be back to talk about some of these we've got some verbs, nouns, phrases that we're going to focus in on before I fall. I did want to mention this book, as Tom said, was made into a movie in 2017. And I looked up the actress, Tom. Her name's Zoe Deutsch, who plays Sam. But guess who her mother is? Her mother will be familiar to us because she was the girlfriend in Back to the Future, Leah Thompson.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of fun. Yeah, I thought she looks familiar. And then I saw her mom and I went, oh, yeah, Leah Thompson.
Interesting.
She is from an acting family. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and read through now.
Samantha Sam Kingston seems to have it all. She's best friends with her school's Queen Bee, Lindsay, and is dating popular and attractive Rob. Yet, she feels anxious about her social standing and often bullies others under pressure from Lindsay. February 12th seems like any other day at first. Sam and Lindsay's group of friends attend a house party held by Kent, a kind but peculiar boy. Sam plans to lose her virginity to Rob that night. However, the party is interrupted by the arrival of Juliet, Lindsay's former best friend. Having been mercilessly bullied for years by Lindsay, Sam, and their friends, Juliet confronts them, and they counter by humiliating her. When Sam finds Rob, he's too drunk to have sex, so she asks Lindsay to drive her home. On the way, the girls discuss what greatest hits of their lives they might see at the moment of their deaths. Suddenly, Lindsay's car plows into something on the road and flips over, killing Sam instantly. Sam wakes up the next day, sure that it was all a dream. Yet her sister and friends insist it's February 12th. Confused, Sam proceeds through her day with most events playing out the same way, including her death in the crash. The day repeats again, but Sam attempts to change things to avoid her fate. She acts more nicely to people and convinces Lindsay to skip the party. As they hang out later, Sam is relieved to see the time of her death pass without incident. However, the girls learn that Juliet has killed herself. Though Sam and her friends wonder if it's partly their fault, Lindsay coldly dismisses Juliet's death. Sam falls asleep, hoping the day won't repeat again. Okay, let's talk about the contents of today's lesson. Remember, our featured work of literature for the month of September is the young adult novel Before I Fall, written by Lauren Oliver. And as we said before, it was also made into a movie in 2017. But we are going to be focusing on the book itself. You know, read the book, you get more out of it. Everybody says the book is better than the movie. So pick up a copy, download it from the internet or whatever. You might enjoy it. So this book is all about reliving your last day. Before I Fall. Now, to relive just means to live something again or to have the same experience again. And your last day, of course, is going to be your last day on Earth, the last day of your life.
So we've got Sam Kingston, Samantha Kingston. She is the main character in this book, and she seems to have it all. So if you say someone has it all, it means they have looks, they have talent, they have money, everything. They seem to have it all. She's best friends with her school's queen bee, whose name is Lindsay. The queen bee is usually the most popular girl in school. Now, just because you're the most popular doesn't mean you're mean and nasty. Some schools have popular girls who are quite nice. It depends on the school. But unfortunately, at Sam's school, the queen bee is not a nice person. She's not at all nice. So we're calling her the queen bee. Now, her name is Lindsay, and she's popular, and she's dating popular and attractive Rob. Rob is not a nice guy either, just so you know. So she's best friends with the queen bee, Lindsay, and she's also dating another guy who's popular, but he's rotten inside as well. So she sounds like she's picked out a bad group. The one thing I remember my mom always telling us as kids as we're growing up, always choose great friends, guys. Great friends will be everything to you, especially when you're in high school. That's kind of when kids stop listening to their parents. But if they have good friends, they're going to make it out okay. But if you have bad friends, who knows? Bad friends can really hurt you. So that's who we're talking about right now. Sam, Lindsay, her best friend, and the guy she's dating, Rob.
So that's good. It seems like she has everything going for her. She's friends with the most popular girl. She's going out with Rob, who's a great macho kind of guy. Yet she feels anxious about her school standing, or at least her social standing, and often bullies others under pressure from Lindsay. So yeah, maybe sometimes if you're popular, if you're the head cheerleader or something like that, you might be worried, gee, am I the most popular girl, or is that other girl trying to be more popular than me? So you're probably always worrying about that, and that would be being anxious about your social standing. Standing here is your position in a certain society.
Yeah, your status. You could also use that, her social status. She often bullies others because she's getting pressure from Lindsay. Lindsay will tell her, hey, Go let that girl know she's nothing. So if you bully someone, you use your popularity, your position, your higher social position, or in terms of guys, sometimes use your strength. You're stronger than others to then go and harm somebody who's less popular or weaker than you are. That's bullying people, and we know that goes on online now.
Sure.
When I was growing up, you couldn't be bullied online. There was no internet. But now you can bully people online, but also face-to-face you can bully people. And that's what she was doing. She was actually bullying people because Lindsay was giving her pressure to do something. You see how having good friends are important. If you had a good friend, your good friend would never say to bully someone else. That's just wrong.
Yeah, Sam should have known, hey, if she's telling me to bully other people, she's not worth being friends with.
Yeah, she's a jerk.
But when you're in high school, you just haven't figured those things out yet. So she probably does what she says. She follows Lindsay's orders. And this is all happening on February 12th. And that seems like any other day at first. It seems like any ordinary day in their school life. Sam and Lindsay's group of friends attend a house party held by Kent, a kind but peculiar boy. So Kent holds this house party. He puts it on. And it's probably not supposed to be taking place. They probably have beer and stuff there. Kids do that in the United States. They put on these parties and have alcohol and stuff like that. He's kind, he's a nice boy, but he's peculiar. He's a little weird.
Yeah, I never went to those house parties, Tom. I knew better. You can get into a lot of trouble at those house parties. Yeah, Kent's really a nice guy, but he's a little weird. That's another way to say weird. A little strange. Just because he does things differently than perhaps the popular kids. Well, that night, Sam has plans to lose her virginity to Rob that night. That boyfriend she likes who's attractive. To lose your virginity just means you have sex for the first time. However, the party is interrupted by the arrival of Juliet. That's Lindsay's former best friend. You're going to want to remember that. So Juliet is Lindsay's former best friend. Something happens to Juliet later that'll be important. So, yeah, the party is interrupted. I guess they didn't invite Juliet. That is my conclusion here. But she arrives at the party regardless. I guess she just crashes the party. That's the verb we use to say someone comes to something they're not invited to. She's crashing the party.
Indeed, that's what happens, and the plot thickens in just a couple of seconds, but right now we're going to take a break, but please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 今天我们要看的是第14单元。好，我们要来谈文学作品。这一部小说叫做 Before I Fall。它的中文是把它翻成了还有机会说再见。好，我们知道这个故事的一开始是谈主角 Samantha， 她的昵称叫做小山 Sam。 不过她说到介绍她的时候说她呀，她是校园里面的校园女王的闺蜜。好，在英文里面你说和谁是好朋友be best friends with 表示说这跟谁你们两个可是所谓的中文的闺蜜非常亲密的好朋友。那后面又提到了 Queen Bee， 基本上我们也知道这是一种比喻的用法，比拟的用法，就像在蜜蜂里面他们的女王蜂一样，那当然是校园里面的领导人物，风云人物。没错，他就是跟这样子的人当最好的朋友。好，这一个 Queen Bee， 也就是这位校园女王呢，叫做 Lindsay。 好，那我们再来继续他接着介绍说，其实Sam 我们这个故事的女主角呢，她对于她个人的在学校里面的社交地位是颇为焦虑的，而且呢，她受到 Lindsay 的影响，她也是属于霸凌别人的人。好，那这个小说的时间是2月12号，这一天非常的重要。为什么？我们如果往下读就会知道，这一天不是只有普通的一个日子而已，而是这里有伏笔哦。我们就会发现这一天对 Sam 来说，他不是过一次而已，他是1次、2次、3次，这一天在他生命里面不断的重复。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue to summarize our featured novel, Before I Fall. Fall could mean a couple of things. You could fall from grace. Maybe you become you kind of lose face or something and you lose your position, but it could also mean you're going to die as well. So
could mean before I fall in love.
Yes, indeed. Fall is a verb that can be applied into a lot of different situations. But I think in this particular case, it's going to be talking about death, but we'll get to that in just a second here. Where we left off, we were at a house party hosted by Kent.
Yeah.
He's a nice kid, but he's kind of weird. And Sam plans to lose her virginity to Rob, But then Juliet shows up. She crashes the party. The party is interrupted by Juliet. And who is Juliet? Well, she's Lindsay's former best friend. Remember, Lindsay is the queen bee, and having been mercilessly bullied for years by Lindsay, Sam and their friends, Juliet confronts them and they counter by humiliating her. So I guess Juliet used to be Lindsay's best friend, but you know how these things go. Sometimes they stab you in the back the first chance they get, and Lindsay later bullied Juliet, and Lindsay probably forced all her friends to bully Juliet as well. And so they think, hey, you can't just show up at this party and crash the party, and they humiliate her. I think what they actually did was they poured beer all over her or something like that.
Now, mercilessly just means without mercy or without pity. So even though what's happening to this person would make any normal person feel sorry for them, not this group. They're merciless. They have no pity for what they're doing. So they bullied her, Juliet, for years. She was bullied by Lindsay, Sam, and their group of friends who are all mean. Juliet confronts them. If you confront somebody, you walk right up to them, you don't avoid them, and you kind of have a face-to-face discussion. It's usually very angry, maybe kind of hostile. She confronts them, and they counter. If you counter someone's actions, it means your reaction to them. They counter by humiliating her. So she takes a lot of courage. It would take a lot of courage, actually, to confront these bullies that have been hurting her for years. And what do they do to her? Well, they counter. That's their reaction to her. They counter by humiliating her even more. So, yeah, this isn't a nice group of people at all, is it? So if you humiliate somebody, usually you're embarrassing them to the point where they just would like to kind of, disappear because they're so embarrassed. To humiliate, to make someone feel so ashamed and foolish that they would just like to kind of die at that moment by humiliating her. So even though she has the courage to confront them, they continue on by bullying her and humiliating her at the party.
Yeah, it's just Juliet against all of them, and Lindsay is the queen bee. So what is Juliet thinking here? She confronts them, but they counter or counterattack, and they let her have it. And she's humiliated, she's embarrassed, and she probably has to leave the party and probably will never be able to face her friends again. And when Sam finds Rob, well, he's too drunk to have sex. So remember, Sam or Samantha wanted to lose her virginity at this party, or that night at least, but he's had too much to drink. So she says, okay, forget about him. Lindsay, will you drive me home? So she asks Lindsay, again, her best friend and the queen bee, can you drive me home? And then on the way, while they're going to Sam's house here, on the way, the girls discuss what greatest hits of their lives they might see at the moment of their deaths. We often think about that when we die. Our whole life is going to flash in front of our eyes. We know the end is coming, so then suddenly we think about all the most significant moments of our lives. I guess in that sense, this would be the greatest hits, the greatest times you had in your life, the most significant moments of your life.
Well, suddenly, as they're discussing what might flash before their eyes, that's the phrase we use when we talk about right before you die. What do you see? Suddenly, Lindsay's car, remember she's driving, plows into something on the road and flips over, killing Sam instantly. If you plow into something, it just means you hit something so strongly, you probably just completely wreck whatever you're hitting into. A plow, as a noun, is a farming vehicle. It's a farm vehicle that has a lot of power, and it can has these blades in the front. It's used for usually cutting and turning over soil. So it's very powerful. So plow into just means, wow, you hit this thing really hard. It plows into something on the road and flips over. If you flip over, you go from being right side up to upside down. So it flips over. The car just turns over and over, which often happens actually in some of these car crashes if you've been paying attention to TV movies and things like that. And what happens is it kills Sam instantly. She's killed on impact.
Okay, so she didn't have to suffer with long hospitalization or whatever. She dies right away, and the car flips over onto its top or whatever. And Sam wakes up the next day sure that it was all a dream. So Sam is actually not dead. She has come back to life. And I guess she thinks that, boy, that must have been a dream or something. Because here I am. Yet, still, her sister and friends insist it's February 12th. So she probably wakes up and thinks, okay, today is February 13th.
Right.
It's another day. That was just a dream. And her sister says, what are you talking about? It's not the 13th. It's the 12th today. And then she realizes that, my goodness, she is living the same day again.
Well, she's confused, obviously. That would be a weird feeling. And she proceeds through her day with most events playing out the same way, or most events occurring the same way they had in her dream or in real life on the 12th. If you say something proceeds, it just moves forward, goes ahead. When you're at Disneyland, they'll check your tickets, and if they're good, they'll say, you may proceed, which just means you can walk ahead and go on in. So these events proceed just the way they had, including her death in the crash. The day repeats again. So this is the second repeat, but Sam attempts or tries to change things to avoid her fate. Your fate just is whatever is going to happen to you. You have no control over it. It's like destiny. You can't avoid your fate. She acts more nicely to people, or here I could just say she acts nicer to people is correct as well, but she acts more nicely. And she convinces Lindsay to skip the party. If you skip something, guys, it means you don't go there, or you don't see it, or you don't do it. If I'm reading a book and I skip a chapter, it means I didn't read that part. I went ahead.
Skip it. Forget it. So, yeah, don't go to the party because Sam knows that something bad's going to happen at the party or maybe afterwards. So she thinks that Lindsay should not go there. And as they hang out later, or when they're together later, hanging out, having fun together, Sam is relieved to see the time of her death pass without incident. So she knew what time she died before, but now she sees that the time has passed without incident. Incident just means something happening. We often talk about historical incidents, the 2020 incident, or whatever incidents there are in history, things that happen.
And they usually use it in a negative way, guys. So if you see something in the newspaper, there was an incident last night on Heping Road, it's usually a bad thing.
Indeed. However, the girls learn that Juliet has killed herself, so something bad still happens anyway. Though Sam and her friends wonder if it's partly their fault, Lindsay coldly dismisses Juliet's death. That doesn't surprise me. Usually when people are guilty of something, they try to look the other way. Oh, what does that have to do with me? So, of course, she doesn't feel guilty. She dismisses the death. She probably would have done it anyway. So that's what dismisses here. She basically just doesn't consider it. She won't be responsible for it. It's not her problem.
I can't imagine, just treating someone's death like it wasn't important. Well, at that point, Sam falls asleep, hoping the day won't repeat again. I think that's the second repeat of February 12th. We're going to find out more, but you'll have to stay tuned and listen to day 2 of this unit. Right now, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher one more time.
好，我们继续来看这个故事。当然，这个小说里面的女主角 Sam， 那她在学校里其实是霸凌别人的人，而被霸凌的对象就是这边提到的 Juliet。Having been mercilessly bullied， 这个地方前半句这是一个分词构句，分词构句里面会用 having， 那就表示完成式咯。那省略的主词就是在后面我们看到的逗点后的 Juliet。 这么长期以来一直被 Lindsay、Sim 还有这一群朋友们霸凌，这么好几年下来，他怎么样去面对呢？他说他 confronts them， 而对 Lindsay 这群霸凌他的人呢，怎么对他呢？Counter by humiliating her。 我们知道 counter 这个字，这是一个动词，这个字代表的是反击跟对抗，所以这些霸凌别人的人反而羞辱他，用这样的方式来反击他。好，接下来 Sim 他那一天其实是有一个想法，他要和他所心仪的对象发生性行为。可是呢，结果并没有按照他的预期。后来 Lindsay 就开车载他回家，而这一路上呢，他们才在讨论说，哎呀，他们这一生里头所谓的 greatest hits 最美好的时刻是什么时候？可是这时候发生了车祸，车子翻车了，翻覆了，所以他用了一个动词 flips over， 而当场就 Sim 毙命。我们知道 killing 这是一个分词，而为什么用分词？理由很简单，他讲了就是前面这个车祸，这个发生的事故 which killed Sim instantly。 好，我们不要用 which， 我们就直接把后面这一句改成了分词构句，所以动词 killed 变成了 ing killing。用故事里面这样的情节铺陈，我们知道 Sim 当场死了，可是小说里面就告诉大家，他第二天好像就是做了一场梦，因为那一天又是2月12号。但是 Sim 他就觉得很奇怪，不是他已经死了吗？他发生了车祸了吗？可是没有，竟然又是2月12号，而且一样的事情重复的发生。他改变了他的态度，他对人和善，但是他有没有躲过他的厄运？没有。我们就从 however 这个地方看起。However, the girls learn that Julia has killed herself. 最让他意外的是，在这第二次的2月12号里面，他们得知 Julia 自杀身亡。那我们来看动词 learn 这个字本来是学习，可是我们要知道，我们在用 learn 的时候有一个很好用的用法，就是你用 learn， 但是它的解释上就像我们用 know 一样，是知道，但是 learn 有一种从不知道到知道这种得知的感觉，所以这也就是这个字它的意思啊。好，我们今天故事讲解就先到这边，我们下次再继续聊。
That's it for today, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time when we talk about the author herself and some more themes and ideas of this month's featured novel. So please join us then. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.